It started when my friend left me 350 miles from home, alone, to die. They called it a harmless trip, one last adventure before graduation. But deep in the mountains, everything changed. That night marked the beginning of my revenge. My name is Aaron Davis, and I was 23, a month from graduation. Most of my life, I knew exactly where I stood, the lowest rung of life's ladder. I came from a forgotten town in Ohio, the kind of place people only pass through when they've taken the wrong exit. Nothing grew there except the silence. I knew struggle. I knew not having enough. My father died when I was 9. A rainy afternoon, a truck sliding across the highway. They said it was instant, as if that made it hurt less. One careless driver, and the man who once carried me on his shoulders at the county fair was gone. After that, life hardened. It wasn't just grief, it was bills piling up. My mother worked every miserable job she could find just to keep us afloat. Office cleaner by day, janitor by night. I had 2 younger siblings. Liam was 5, Ellie still in diapers. They barely remembered Dad. We didn't have vacations, just hand-me-downs. No birthday parties, just cupcakes split 3 ways. No dreams and only survival. Scholarships, part-time jobs, and loans kept me going. Somehow I survived. Even when I was exhausted and people looked at me like I didn't belong. I pushed through and finished college. That's how I ended up on the trip I'll never forget. Our final adventure before graduation scattered us. 6 of us, all friends. At least that's what I told myself. We planned it for months. Out of Boston, through New England, ending at a cabin in rural Pennsylvania. A farewell to youth, to late nights and lies about forever friendships, but the truth? I didn't belong. I wasn't rich. No trust fund, no luxury car, no watch worth more than my tuition. I wasn't a CEO's son or a senator's nephew. I was the scholarship kid, the loyal one. The friend who never said no because he couldn't afford to. They liked having me there because it made them feel better about themselves. Proof of how far above the world they stood. There was Ethan Bradford, golden boy born with a grin and a bloodline full of money. His father ran something in finance. His mother ran charity events for magazines. Ryan thought he was brilliant because people laughed at his jokes. Nate was tall, quiet, and empty behind his whiskey-colored eyes. Then there were the girls, Leah and Madison. Both beautiful, both sharp in ways that could wound. Leah liked to flirt with danger. Madison liked to laugh at people's pain. They were perfect in their world, and I wasn't. They called me Charlie as a joke. My middle name. Said it sounded more harmless than Aaron. Like a pet you keep around. Like something forgettable. Good old Charlie. The loyal dog. Can't leave him behind, right? Ethan would say, smirking. I laughed along because what else could I do? I couldn't afford to lose even the illusion of friendship. That's why I said yes to the trip. Even when something in my gut told me not to. Even when I heard Ethan whisper to Ryan, "This is going to be the best prank yet. I should have known." We left Boston early, crammed into Ethan's SUV, music blaring, their phones snapping photos for Instagram stories where I was barely tagged, if at all. We started like any other group of college kids, loud music, too much fast food, bad jokes stretched into inside jokes. We stopped at diners with neon signs and took pictures beside rusted gas stations like they were monuments. Our first stop was Portland, Maine. Ethan wanted lobster rolls. Madison wanted aesthetic shots by the waterfront. Ethan even accidentally shoved me toward the harbor edge for a laugh. Relax, Charlie. You're not wearing shoes nice enough to ruin. That night they drank at a rooftop bar I couldn't afford. I sipped 1 beer while they ordered rounds. Ethan had Leah flirt for free shots. Back at the hotel, Ethan laughed as he stuck me with Ryan in the cramped twin room. Budget problems, charity case. You understand. The next day we drove toward Bar Harbor. Leah wanted sunrise photos from Cadillac Mountain. Madison rented bikes she wouldn't ride just for the pictures. I carried their bags, took their photos, wasn't in a single one. Charlie, hold our stuff. Don't ruin the shot, they had lobster again. I ate fries and kept quiet. Come on, Charlie. Don't act like you're too good for fun, Ethan sneered. We spent the 3rd day in Acadia National Park. Nate rushed ahead on the steep trails. Ryan made loud jokes about how slow I was. Sure, you're not gonna need a rescue, Charlie? Hope your scholarship covers it. When I slipped and cut my hand, Ethan poured half a bottle of water into the dirt before handing it over. Oops. My bad. That night, I ordered nothing at a restaurant I couldn't afford. Ethan toasted me anyway. To loyalty, to friendship, to poor little Charlie who keeps tagging along even when he's not wanted. They laughed. I smiled. I sat outside later watching the dark sky, wondering why I still stayed because I had no one else. And I thought this was as close to belonging as I'd ever get. We stayed one night in Portland, another near Bar Harbor, another wandering the trails of Acadia National Park. Cliffs, beaches, rocky hikes that left us breathless and laughing. For those 3 days, I let myself believe it was real, that I belonged. But beneath it all, there were looks I wasn't meant to catch, whispered plans I wasn't meant to hear, Ethan's grin a little too wide when I asked where we were headed next. We're making memories, Charlie. Don't be so serious. Somewhere past Scranton, the roads narrowed. Trees thickened. Cell service vanished. You trust us, don't you? Leah asked from the front seat, smiling sweetly. You'd follow us anywhere, right? I smiled, I nodded. I didn't know it then, but I'd just answered the question that sealed my fate. On the 4th day, they pulled over. It was dark. Cold. The kind of cold that crawls into your bones and tells you that you're not welcome here. Stretch your legs, Charlie. Take a look around. It's beautiful out here. Ethan's voice was light, almost kind. I stepped out. The stars were cruelly bright. The mountains loomed like silent judges. I turned, and heard it. The click of doors locking. The flash of teeth behind glass. Laughter spilling through the cracked window. See you at graduation, Charity Case. Ethan sneered before driving off, leaving me alone on the dark, empty road. Tires spun. Gravel flew. Their taillights vanished between the trees. 350 miles from home, approximately. No phone signal. No transportation. No one coming back. That's where this story begins, but not where it ends. Standing there on that dark mountain road, 350 miles from home, I could still hear their laughter echoing in my ears as their SUV disappeared into the black woods. That sound stayed with me longer than the cold or the fear. Their laughter was the last piece of them I'd carry with me. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I stood there, breath fogging in the night air, staring at the empty road, at the stars that looked down like silent witnesses. Then, I started walking. No phone signal. No money, no map. Just me and my stubborn refusal to be the victim in a story they thought they'd written for me. At first, I followed the road. It twisted through the mountains, silent except for the wind in the trees and the occasional snap of something moving in the woods beyond the guardrails. I didn't stop to think about what might be out there. Bears, wolves. None of them scared me more than the humiliation I'd just been handed. Hours passed. My legs burned. My throat grew dry. I kept walking. By dawn, my shoes were torn and my feet blistered. My hands were scraped raw from when I'd tripped on loose gravel in the dark. Hunger gnawed at my stomach, but I pushed it down. Step after step, mile after mile. Eventually, I found a sign. Service station 12 miles. It felt like hope. Small, bitter hope. I made it there by noon. A dusty gas station on the edge of nowhere, run by a man with more tattoos than teeth. He took one look at me, bleeding, filthy, exhausted, and said, "You lose a fight, kid?" "No," I said. "Just some bad friends." He didn't ask more. Just pointed me to the restroom, gave me water, a bag of chips, and let me sit in the shade behind the building without calling the cops. Kindness comes in strange shapes when you're at your lowest. By the time I made it to the nearest town, a forgettable speck on the map with one diner and a bus stop, I'd been walking nearly 30 hours. I pawned my watch for just enough cash to get a ticket halfway home and sat in the back of that rattling Greyhound, staring out the window at miles of empty fields. I didn't think about revenge. Not yet. I thought about survival. I thought about Liam and Ellie back home. About Mom working herself sick so I could be the first Davis to make something of himself. I thought about how I'd let myself believe those people were my friends, just because they let me sit at their table. About how stupid I'd been to think I could ever belong in their world. But here's the thing about people like me. We learn. We adapt. We remember. I made it home 2 days later, sore, limping, humiliated. I told my mom I'd gotten sick and had to come back early. She didn't ask questions. She was too tired for questions. That night, lying in my childhood bedroom staring at the peeling ceiling, I made myself a promise. This wasn't how my story would end. They'd written me off as nothing more than a poor kid with no connections, no future. They'd thought leaving me on a mountain would be the punchline to some rich boy joke they'd laugh about for years. But people like me, we don't stay down. After that night on the mountain, I stopped believing in friendship. I stopped believing in loyalty. What I believed in was survival, growth, power. I graduated quietly. No parties, no photos, no farewells. While Ethan and the others slipped into cushy jobs handed down by fathers, golf buddies, and uncles, I started where people like me always start, at the bottom. 2 jobs. One during the day, one at night. Finance assistant by sunlight, shelf stocker after dark, and in the quiet hours between shifts I studied finance, stock markets, real estate. Not just how people made money, but how they lost it. I learned to move in the shadows, to play the long game. Every dollar I saved went into investments no one else had the stomach for. Risk became my closest ally. Failure? Just another teacher. By 27, I'd had my first real break. A failing logistics firm on the brink of bankruptcy. A gamble no one else wanted. I took it, cleaned house, cut deals, doubled revenue, sold it for a profit 10 times larger than my original investment. That was the start. While they took gap years in Europe, bounced between exciting new ventures bankrolled by family safety nets, I kept building. By 30, I was stable. Respected in the circles that mattered. Not flashy, not loud, but known. Trusted by the people who pulled strings from the top floors of glass towers. One name on my radar never moved far. Ryan. Ryan, with his smug little startup. His app that changed the game. Investors who backed him because of his father's connections, not his brain. What Ryan didn't know. One of his angel investors, silent, masked through holding companies, and was me. And when the time was right, I called in my influence. Funding pulled. Lines of credit closed. Contracts voided through legal pressure I orchestrated from 3 chess moves ahead. The board voted to sell the company to cover debts. Guess who showed up at that meeting uninvited? Guess whose signature went on the paperwork to acquire his life's work for pennies on the dollar? Mine Aaron Davis, CEO. His former charity case, the one who used to hold his coat at bars. The one who used to be left out of every photo. The look on Ryan's face when the veil lifted. When he realized who now owned everything he'd built on arrogance and nepotism. It tasted better than any toast or trophy. I didn't even have to say much. Just leaned across the table and smiled. Business is business. You understand? Ryan's startup? Absorbed, gutted, rebranded under my firm. His staff kept under my leadership. His vision? Erased, one by one they fell. Nate's investment firm? Tied up in litigation I quietly funded through shell companies. Leah's influencer career? Canceled by scandal. A tip to the right journalist at just the right time. Madison's boutique? Funded by an investor she never met, me. When I pulled out, she folded. And Ethan? Golden boy Ethan. The future CEO, the legacy son. After a failed merger and a scandal involving insider trading whispers, also whispered by me in the right ears, he was fired. His father's disappointment made headlines in business circles. His house with the waterfront view? Mine now, his father's old firm, quietly acquired, rebranded. Ethan's name stripped from the masthead like peeling paint. By 33, I sat at the top of the empire they thought I could never touch. Real wealth doesn't flaunt gold chains or loud cars. It moves quietly, pulling strings while others chase the spotlight. By 35, I had everything they once mocked me for lacking. A New York penthouse, a private island home. Accounts so deep even bankers smiled with fear. Properties, stocks, networks built on results, not charm. While they wasted their 20s playing kings, I studied markets, learned mergers, and turned obsession into an empire. And obsession wins. 10 years after the mountain, after they left me for dead, I walked into a bar I owned. I bought it for one reason. Ethan worked here and the others still came around. My name was on the papers, but I stayed invisible. To them, I was just another unseen owner. My assistant fed me every detail, shifts, conversations, and who was barely hanging on. The bar wasn't my style. Dim lights, cracked jukebox, whiskey in the air. This wasn't business. It was surveillance. One night I left my driver, my assistant, and my black luxury sedan idling outside the bar. 2 more SUVs waited behind it. My security convoy, engines low and steady. They were part of my life now. But no one inside this place needed to see that. Not yet. Tonight I wasn't arriving as the owner. I was walking in as a stranger. I pushed open the door, letting the cold night air slither in behind me. The place was half full, steeped in the kind of quiet where even the jukebox seemed tired. A slow country song humming in the corner, glasses clinking like distant echoes. And then I saw him. Behind the bar. Ethan Bradford. The golden boy who once looked down on me from penthouses, now reduced to this. Sleeves rolled up, hands trembling as he wiped down glasses, serving drinks to strangers who didn't even know his name. He didn't notice me at first. I walked to the counter, sat down and waited, letting the seconds stretch like a slow blade. When he finally turned, his eyes swept past me, then froze. The glass in his hand slipped. It didn't shatter, just rolled, slow and awkward, across the counter like the silence that fell between us. "Can I help you?" His voice was hollow, brittle. I didn't answer. "Not yet." He looked again, squinting like he was staring into a shadow from another life. Then, recognition. I saw it hit him, like a ghost walking through his ribcage. "Charlie?" he whispered. I smiled. Not cruelly, not warmly. Just enough for him to feel the ground tilt. "No," I said, my voice low. "Aaron Davis," the color drained from his face. His throat bobbed as he swallowed what little pride he had left. "You own this place?" His eyes flicked toward the walls, searching for an escape. I gave the smallest shrug. One of many. Only then did he seem to really see it. The bar, the cracked mirror behind the bottles, the cheap wood counter under his shaking hands. It reflected his fall better than any words I could ever say. I'm sorry," he stammered suddenly, voice trembling. "We were stupid back then." I was stupid. I raised a hand, stopping him cold. "Don't waste your breath, Ethan. You didn't care about my apology when you left me on that road. You don't get to ask for yours now." His mouth opened, but no sound came out. The weight of years pressed down on him right there, in front of strangers who didn't even know the story, but could see the shame dripping from his face. I leaned in, my voice barely above the hum of the jukebox. "You ever leave a friend behind on a mountain road?" No answer. His eyes said enough, pale, unsteady, haunted. I placed $100 bill on the counter, crisp and deliberate. "For old times," I murmured. I stood, turned, and headed for the door. The cold night air met me, sharp and clean, as my driver stepped forward to open the door of my black Mercedes. My convoy idled in formation behind it, engines low and steady. In the corner of my eye, I caught movement. Ethan stepping out of the bar. He stood on the sidewalk, coatless, watching me slide into the leather seat, watching as my convoy pulled away, polished chrome disappearing into the city lights. And in that moment, I knew he understood. I hadn't just left the mountain that night. I'd left him there forever. The night after I saw Ethan at the bar, I didn't celebrate. No calls, no champagne. Just me in the backseat of my black car, staring out the tinted window as the city moved. That's the thing about revenge. It doesn't arrive with applause. It settles like dust after a storm. I wasn't the boy left on a cold mountain road anymore. I'd built something from ashes and memory. They'd left me to freeze, thinking I was a joke. Now I was the man they whispered about. I didn't just survive. I made sure they'd never forget me. Some stories don't end on a mountain road. They rise from it. Let me know in the comments. What's the worst prank you've ever seen or experienced? And if stories like this keep you hooked, don't forget to subscribe for more.